Babylon. You remember that when we did the Old Testament survey? Long ways away, isn't it? Okay, hundreds of miles away. All right, and so in 606 you have the first deportation, and Daniel and his friends are taken. They kind of come and take the cream of the crop of the young men that look like leadership material. All right, Jehoiakim is replaced by Jehoiachin, and in 597 Nebuchadnezzar comes back, and you have the second deportation in 597, and at that time Ezekiel is taken to Babylon. And then Zedekiah is put in place, and he reigns until 586, and we have the third deportation, and that's when the temple is destroyed. Now I want you to notice on the chart that you have two ways to reckon 70 years. The first way you can reckon it is from the first deportation in what year? To the first return under Zerubbabel in what year? Yes, 536. So you have 70 years there. Or you can reckon the 70 years from when the temple was destroyed and when there were no more kings. Zedekiah is the last king. And so 586 is really the end of the kingdom, isn't it? Because there are no more kings after that. You can't have a kingdom if you don't have kings. All right, so Zedekiah is the last. And also the temple is destroyed in 586. It is rebuilt and rededicated 517. 516, 517 in that area, and so you get another. You can reckon 70 years there as well. Frankly, I like to think of the 70 years. Well, you can think of it either politically or religiously. Okay, and this way, I like to think of the Babylonian captivity from the time that they can no longer offer sacrifices and actually practice the covenant relationship they have with God. That would be 586, until they can once again dedicate a temple and begin to practice their covenant relationship with God. Their covenant relationship required the temple. The temple was central in their covenant relationship. And so without the temple, they cannot fulfill the law, and they cannot participate in their covenant relationship with God. And so I like to think of the 70 years as destruction to dedication of the temple. Or you can think of it as the first deportation with Daniel until the first return. So either way you get 70 years. So, when we first made the chart, I didn't want to give you all that information because it's a little too confusing. And so we just say that the Babylonian captivity starts at 586. Because from that time you don't have any more kings, right? By the way, do you get any more kings then after that? That's it. From that point on, as Daniel points out, they're under the time of Gentile rule over the land. Even during Jesus' day, they were not really independent. They were still under Rome, weren't they? And couldn't have a king. I mean, you have King Herod, but he's sort of a puppet figure for Rome. And so there's not really a king until Messiah comes. And he will be the next true king of Israel. So when you look at Zedekiah and the 586 figure, you're looking at the true end of the kingdom, aren't you? Until Messiah restores all things. So you look at Zedekiah as a wow moment in the nation's history. Now we look at this Babylonian captivity. We've covered quite a bit of it already. And what you've got is Daniel's taken 606 and 597 Ezekiel, and 586 the temple is destroyed. And those are our captivities. Now, I'm going to give you some Bible stories, and I want to see if you can tell me when these occur. Okay? You've got that chart out, right? This chart that Kenny has. All right? Get that chart out, and I'm going to give you some stories, and I want you to see if you can put this together. Okay. Daniel is in the lion's den. Daniel's in the lion's den. What would be the time era? The Babylonian Captivity. Because Daniel's taken to Babylon in what year? Okay. All right. My shack, your shack, and a bungalow. Or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, what era? Same time. Okay. And so where are we going to be geographically? Babylon. Long ways away from Judah, right? Okay. Daniel and the lion's den. Oh, that's the same time. All right. Now, how about David and Goliath? United Kingdom era. Okay. All right. Jephthah's vow. Jephthah made a vow. Here's what he said. Lord, if you give us victory, I'll sacrifice the first thing that comes out of the door of my household. Judges, period of the Judges. Jephthah's vow, period of the Judges. Okay. The flood. Okay, creation to Abraham. All right. Okay, Joseph is sold into slavery to Egypt. Abraham to the Exodus. All right. Jesus said, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. When did Moses lift up the serpent in the wilderness? What time frame? The Exodus and wanderings. Okay, Exodus and wanderings. It's in the book of Numbers. Okay. Did we do David and Goliath yet? We did. Okay. All right. Somebody give me one. Give me an Old Testament story.
And the walls came tumbling down.
All right. Joshua. What time frame would that be? All right, good. The conquest. Another one. Gideon. Okay, Gideon. What would be? The Judges, the period of the Judges. Okay, did you say Elijah? Shah. Elisha. Okay, Elisha would be during what? Divided Kingdom era. And you'd read about him in what book? 2 Kings. Very good. Okay. How about Mount Carmel and the showdown with the prophets of Baal? Divided Kingdom era. But now we're in the book of 1 Kings 17, aren't we? Okay. All right. Are you starting to get a little bit of a sequential order in your mind of all your Old Testament stories? I hope you are. Hope you're getting that. So you go to the Psalms and you're reading about David and he's hiding from Saul. What time frame are you in? United Kingdom era. All right, good. Isn't that exciting? You can put this stuff together. It's exciting for me to see what you're doing. Now, I have made up a chart. Didn't get it run off yet, but we made up a chart. And what it is, it's a timeline of the kings and the prophets. And I want to give that to you next week. It's a timeline. And what it is, it's like this tall, and it's showing you who's the Pharaoh of Egypt. It's showing you what's happening in Assyria and Syria. It's showing you who is the king and who is the prophet during that time. And so it puts all of it on a timeline. And we don't have it run off just yet. It is an expansion of this chart. Quite an expansion. In fact, it'll take you, it's about 18 feet long if you put it together. So, now, okay, now you've got about a 3-foot version of it right here. And we gave some of those away. That's great. Okay. Do you have any questions? I noticed after we printed that we hadn't finished it. So we'll finish that for you. Recipients and so on for the prophets.
How many people crossed the Red Sea, also crossed the Jordan?
Oh, here's a great question. How many people that crossed the Red Sea also crossed the Jordan? Do you have an exact number? Do you have? Oh, you don't? Okay, I've got Ted saying 2, but that would be a lot more than 2.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. Now, why would that be? You remember what was the place where this decision was made? Starts with the K. Kadesh Barnea. Okay. So let's say that our good friend Kenny is 16 years old. Okay, we're going to pick on Kenny tonight here for the first time. All right. So he's 16 years old when we cross the Red Sea in what year? 1446. Okay, somebody write this math down. You do this math for me, okay? All right. Now, he's 16, and it's 2 years later that we are at Kadesh Barnea, and we send the spies into the land. He was 16 when we crossed the Red Sea, and now he's 18. Okay. The spies go into the land, they come back, and they say, they give the report, and the people vote, and then the judgment of God was anyone who is what age? 20 years and older doesn't get to go in. So does Kenny get to go in? Okay, but it will be 38 years later. How old will Kenny be 38 years after?
47.
After he's 18. Okay, he's 18 then, and so another 38, he's how old? 56. So, at 56, he probably has children who are actually going to be the warriors. So all the people fighting, probably, under Joshua, probably most of those people are the next generation that were born in the 38 years after that judgment at Kadesh Barnea. And so it'd be Kenny's kids that are going to march behind Joshua and going to go to Jericho and all the rest of that, all right? So if you kind of get that in mind, so there would be a lot of people, not just 16, but you could even be 17 when you cross the Red Sea. What would be our cutoff point? Okay, 19 and a half. So, maybe it's 17, I'm not sure. But anyway, you'd have a cutoff point that by the time that you get to Kadesh Barnea and they decide you're going to be 20 years old. All right, so there would be a lot of kids that crossed, 5-year-olds, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds that will remember, what it was like to poke their finger into the water. Okay. Another question?